All right, guys, welcome back to the Rick Shiels Golf Show podcast, episode 242. I'm your host, Rick Shiels. I'm here with co-host Guy.
Hello.
But today, this is a little intro because we've got an exciting guest on the podcast. Now, we missed Tuesday's upload because it was Bank Holiday Monday and everything going on, but we have delivered here on a Friday. We're at Northants Golf Club, and I've just filmed a 10-shot challenge. We teased it a little bit in the podcast. Quite a few of you guessed it. A lot of you didn't. Drum roll, please. Just filmed the 10-shot challenge with Olympic medalist, major winner, Justin Rose.
And before we get on to how good of an episode it's going to be, because it's going to be phenomenal, as is the podcast, I think Justin Rose is now my top 3 favourite tour pros. Adam Scott's in there still. Yeah. I think Tommy has to stay in there still. Yeah. And then Justin Rose waltzes his way in.
I think you've picked 3 very, very nice people there.
I like nice people.
Justin, wonderful guy. We're actually in the Justin Rose room here at Northants. We'll come on to that in the actual podcast episode. It's a really interesting episode, this. We didn't get loads and loads of time. Justin's time is obviously precious. We've been out on the golf course, played 18 holes today. We've wanted to get some food, so we did about a 30-odd minute podcast today with Justin. We covered quite a lot, actually, a bit about his history, about how he started playing junior golf here, how he burst onto the scene as a up-and-coming superstar in 1998, how he obviously went then to win a US Open 15 years later, and then fantastic stories and insight to the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, what a great guy. And I think as well what we do go into in the podcast, he's had a very interesting career. He was obviously an elite junior. Like I said, in 1998 at the age of 17, he came tied 4th in the Open, then missed 21 cuts in a row. And you think, in reality, if somebody did that the strength to then, and the mental strength to then go on to actually have not only a career in golf, but such a successful career as well. It's very interesting.
Do you think today, without giving any results away, that's the best you've ever seen me hit it in a 10-shot challenge?
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, right, I won't give it away. However, today was 2 things. I think it is the best I've seen a tour pro play in a 10-shot challenge. Yeah. And I think it's the best I've seen you play in a 10-shot challenge, which is important because if Justin played how he played and you played horrendous, wouldn't have been a game. If you'd have played how you played and he played horrendous, wouldn't have been a game. But the fact that you both played so well on such a great golf course is made for, I'm going to say it now, Rick, shoot me if you want, the best 10-shot challenge ever. I've said it.
I think it's a good one. It'll be coming out soon. We're going to prioritise getting that Justin Rose 10-shot challenge out coming soon. We also touched on, I think it's a fitting thing to talk about, we talked about Grayson Murray, who unfortunately took his own life at the weekend at the middle of a PGA Tour event. Obviously, there's talks about him having potential mental health issues. We wanted to kind of put condolences out there to his friends and family because it's horrible for that to ever happen in any sport, but to happen in our sport, I've never known it in my lifetime. And he seemed like such a great character. He obviously won fairly recently as well. Just goes to show, like, make sure that if you are struggling, there's nothing wrong with talking to people, asking your mates, asking your friends and family, how are they doing? Because often people mask it, certainly men mask the fact that they're going through challenges. So if you can talk to someone, it's definitely strong of you if you can as well. Without further ado, should we get Justin Rose on the podcast?
Well, he's been on the podcast. We can't get him again, but we can insert the bit now that we filmed beforehand. Shall we do that?
Ladies and gentlemen, allow us to introduce our guest today. Here, like I say, in his actual room, Justin Rose room.
Before you do, I want to give him the best intro possible now. So all his accolades, or as many as you can reel off.
Well, there's a board over there.
Yeah, he can't quite. He's not quite in eyesight.
Justin Peter Rose, MBE. What's it say just below
Born
that?
30th of July, 1980, which I knew already.
His amateur career is vast. His international career is incredible. His professional career is out of this world. Gold Olympic winner. US Open champion 2013.
Played against Rick Shiels today.
Played against Rick Shiels. Will be a future Ryder Cup captain. Ladies and gentlemen, Justin Rose. Well, Justin, we are here in the Justin Rose room at Northants Golf Club. We have just been out and played a fun 10-shot challenge match, which will be coming to the main channel soon. But what's it like to be back? back at your home stomping ground.
It's great to be back. I mean, so many friendly faces out there, and a couple of juniors who came out to watch us play, and obviously I don't know the juniors as well anymore because obviously they're coming up so thick and fast, but a lot of the old members, and seeing the same old faces here, and people that have supported me for 30 years, quite honestly. I joined here when I was 11 years old, and we took the decision that Northants Golf Club was like a step up in terms of quality of course that could really help drive on my game and things like that, and it absolutely did. I finished school pretty early back in the day. 2:20 I finished school for some reason. Early. So for some reason my school didn't have an hour lunch break like most schools do. We had 2 20-minute breaks, which meant that we finished earlier.
That's actually brilliant.
Straight down to the golf club. So
and that school was close to here? Yeah,
sort of like 20 minutes away.
Brilliant.
I was here every afternoon, and it was kind of a bit surreal being back today. I can't believe it's been, I've actually been to the club but not played it since 2017, which is way too long. So thank you for bringing me back to
Thank you. Honestly, it was a real pleasure. I want to know a few things. Me and Guy have talked about this on the podcast a couple of times. Your favourite, a bit off the cuff memories of being a kid. Like we used to talk about chipping comps, putting comps,
backspin comps,
cheesy chips because it was cheap. And is there anything that kind of really stands out when you come back here? Was there any I don't know, a bit dodgy things that Justin Rose did here? Was there anything a bit off the cuff?
I'm going to tell you that. I think I'm nice here. Let's keep it that way. I mean, tea and crumpets for me, that's like, especially in America, they think tea and crumpets, that's what they think of English people. But actually I did tea and crumpets. How good were crumpets? Especially just a little bit crispy with some butter on it.
So good. The best.
Oh, so good. So I definitely remember that. For me, it's a bit surreal because this is not the clubhouse that I grew up in.
This is a new one.
Yeah, this is a new clubhouse. So some of my memories are, the old chef, Pete Smith was his name, coming in there, getting pots of tea, he'd take care of us, ciabattas, cheese and tomato ciabatta.
Nice.
That was ciabatta or whatever you'd say it, but that was what I remember after a long day's practice.
It's a bit more posh down here.
Ciabatta.
We had cheesy chips and onion rings if you were looking.
You know what? This is going to sound so random now, but I'm sure people have seen the news that Rishi Sunak is proposing national service, right?
Yeah.
I think that should be scrapped, and every person that's under the age of 18 should do a year of national service as a member of a golf club. And the reason I tell you that, because today there was 2 young lads who were 12 years old watching you two play golf, and I had a quick chat to them, and they were so polite and lovely lads. And I always feel like there's many benefits to playing golf, obviously health and mental health, etc. But it's very hard to find someone that played golf from a youngster who hasn't got good values and can speak well. And it just made me think today that I just wish every person has the opportunity to play golf.
It teaches you how to act around adults and
100%.
Different people from
Honesty
different walks
as well,
of life, and
so important.
Integrity and taking your hat off when you shake hands and being kind. I mean, what's fascinating about this room, and obviously this is basically, we're in a shrine for you.
I know, it's almost embarrassing.
Justin, there's pictures around the wall of many trophy wins. There's the GB jacket in a glass cabinet there with a gold medal around it, which I believe is not the exact gold medal, but it's a replica. There's pictures all around the wall. Is it crazy to look at all this and think, I've achieved all of this in the game of golf?
It is crazy, and I think I've always done a purposeful job of not soaking it in just yet. For the fact of not wanting to soften the hunger for more.
That makes sense.
And I think one of the most important, at my house where I have the trophies, is the most important part of the trophy room is the empty space that I keep there purposefully.
For
the next one.
I like it.
Yeah, obviously I'd love the next one to be a major championship. I'd love it to be the Claret Jug. Whatever, that would be choice number one. But beggars can't be choosers, so whatever the next one is, I'll take it.
I think that's quite interesting, that, because I think I would get sucked into, look at this, look at all the things I've won, but I think you've put that very nicely in the fact of, it's all about what's next. What's the next win? Well,
that's it. And out of the things that you have won, you've had obviously a great career so far, and obviously you've won a major championship and you've won an Olympic gold medal. But winning a major championship, did that feel at the time like obviously a massive joy? But does it feel there's a weight off your shoulders? Because I suppose there's been a lot of amazing golfers with great careers that have never got that major. Now you've got one. I've had one for a long time now, but that must have felt good.
Yeah, that felt really good. And I felt like it came at the right time for me as well. I felt like I was really trending into it. I felt like I'd won my first PGA Tour event in 2010. And then 2011 I won a FedEx Cup playoff event. And then 2012, I won a World Golf Championship event. So like the standard of events I was winning were, well, next stop was major championships.
Yeah.
So literally it was quite sequential for me at that point. Listen, it took me a long time to start winning. 2010, I was pretty much 30 years old playing the PGA Tour. So I was kind of, developing later on that timeline. But I was working nicely up the chain there. So yeah, winning at Merrin in 2013 was like bang on plan.
Yeah.
And to answer your question, yeah, I mean, listen, Monty and Westwood and a lot of British golfers that have been, Luke, world number one, have not been able to win a major championship. So yeah, I was keenly aware that was a huge monkey off my back, and hopefully the start of many, many opportunities to come, and hopefully more majors. Obviously that hasn't materialized, but I've been in the mix a bunch and obviously lost a playoff in Augusta, and so I've had my chances, but they would hurt even more if you didn't have that one chalked off, right? So and part of my mindset to winning my first major was not making it bigger than it needed to be. It was like, I remember around that time in my career, let's say from 2010 to that next decade, I was going to play 40 majors. And in my mind, I was going to have some really good opportunities to win. And I was going to win some and I was going to lose some. I kind of had already accepted that. So I'd have accepted that some majors were going to slip by.
Yeah.
So when the opportunity came for the first one, don't strangle it like it's your only chance ever.
That's a good way of looking at it.
And it sort of kind of paid off for me, actually, to be honest with you, in that occasion. So unfortunately, as we sit right here, that is the only one. But listen, one's better than none. And
do you feel when you've won a major, do you feel different, even among your peers? Does it feel like you're
now a major champion?
Yeah, and not that you want to take that to your head necessarily, but it must be a good feeling to be in that company with other people. And again, like you said, like Monty and Luke Donald, who haven't won one, that you've done it, and that must be a good feeling to know that you're in that kind of company. Yeah,
it's a massive feeling, because there's the self-inflicted pressure that comes with winning a major. Like we're here at Northants Golf Club today. I look out the window, that putting green, I've won the US Open 100 times, I've won the Open 1,000 times, I've won the Masters 1,000 times out there. So as a kid, it's massive in your head. So when you have a chance to actually do it in real life, in the moment, and actually live out those dreams, that's what makes it so special. Yeah, your peers respect it because they've done the same thing. They've dreamed about it. And look at Xander Schauffele recently, like unbelievable golfer. I can see that he's been progressing. I can see that he's been getting better. He hasn't won a lot, but brilliant player.
He's always there.
He's always there. And now that I think he deserves that major, 100% deserves that major. But I think that takes him to the next level. I view him as like proper champion.
Yeah. Because once you've won one, you've proved it to yourself.
Yeah.
You've proved it to everyone else. You're like, yeah, I can win a major.
Yeah.
I had that chance. And like you said, you're going to get more chances as you go through your career. But I had that chance, and I grabbed it, and I won it. And I'm now, a major champion. It's 2013, right?
13, yeah. And listen, I think we've all seen Tiger just knock them off like they're nothing, right? And every time he had the lead, he'd finish the job, and that's sort of created like a false sense of how easy it is to win a major.
Yeah,
and that's not the case. Like I think there are times where you have to get in the mix and learn a little bit and learn how to get over the line, and that is a real mentality as well.
Yeah.
You'd like to just skip straight through. As to be fair, a lot of these youngsters do seem to be learning a bit quicker than the older generation.
You get some that come out the blocks and win early, but then they've not always then won more. I mean, you really are probably somewhat of a culprit of that. 1998, Royal Birkdale.
Yeah.
You win the silver medal. You hold out an incredible shot from the side of the rough on 18, and that was your real shoot to stardom. And I bet straight away a lot of people, he's going to win a major in 2 years. I bet that was almost the chat that was going round. The fact it took you 15 years.
Yeah, for sure.
But it must be hard when you really shoot into everyone's mindset as this new up and coming superstar. Is that hard to manage?
I think, I've proved it was hard to manage because I threw on 21 missed cuts right off the back of it. So yeah, if you're not 100% dialed in and ready for what you're saying, which is all the things that come along with great golf and becoming a bit of a superstar in your sport, and not that I was that, but I'm thinking about guys now that are coming through, and the Scotty Schefflers of the world and things like that. It's a long time to live with that recognition. Some people do a better job than others, but one thing that I think that I have had is a really long career. It's not been linear all the way to the top, but I've been able to sustain it for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I think that if you do have that superstardom early doors, I think it is hard to continue the work ethic, the passion, the motivation, the drive with, and you're going to go through some downtimes. I went through my downtime before I achieved anything.
Yeah.
Really, really tough times in the doldrums, like 21 missed cuts, like how am I going to get out of this? I got out of it through pure desperation and the fact that I had no plan B and the fact that I still loved golf, luckily. I never lost a love for golf. But I think if you've tasted the absolute sweet spot and success and it's all come quite easily, and then you go through the really, really tough times when you have to fight with everything you've got, but you're kind of comfortable, you kind of got money in the bank, you kind of done it, you've proved you've done it, what more do you need to prove to be? That's when I think it's actually the most difficult time for players when they've been at the top, they've been there they've been great, they lose it, and it takes a lot to get out of that.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's like it's like you go birdie first 2 holes, and you make a few doubles, and you think, well, hold on a minute, but those birdies were dead easy.
Where's that guy?
You know what interests me as well? I mean, that time, because if I'm right, you obviously came tied 4th in the Open, turned pro the next week. I believe you won the Pro-Am the following week in the event you played in.
Yeah.
And then you missed 21 cuts in a row. Like, that must have been incredibly tough, and thankfully, obviously, your career's flourished, and it's kind of a memory now. But do you think that in this day and age would be even harder? Because I'm just thinking that must have been tough. You probably read newspapers, had people talking to you about it, but imagine that now in the world of social media.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you're saying that, how that would play out on social media. I mean, everyone would have an opinion.
Exactly.
And my name for a while was Just Invite. I was just getting invites into tournaments, and obviously, off the back of clearly just, a reputation and the Open Championship. And my mates would call me a 5-day member of the tour because I wasn't allowed to play weekends.
just what you need your mates saying.
Yeah, you take it from your mates. But obviously, those things are said in the right way because they love you. But you're right. You take that behind a keyboard, and I'm sure a very difficult place to probably have lived for a while. But I now look back at it, and I'm kind of fortunate. I'm grateful almost that it happened, because from the very word go, it gave me this sort of like overarching respect for the game, that you never know what's around the corner, and you just got to stay humble and work hard and just keep your head down. You're never bigger than it.
And that's the thing. I was chatting to Paul before, kind of off camera, about the fact that if somebody did that this year in the Open, hole out, amateur, come tied 4th, I turned pro the next week, the sponsorships would be through the roof, and they'd have a lot of money in the bank. But the pressures then that are amplified, it's certainly, you'd imagine, getting tougher for these guys now with so many kind of eyeballs and opinions that you don't envy them in some regard.
No, and that's the thing, certainly social media can be so advantageous, but also so horrible if you're going through a dark spot. I mean, I don't know how much you want to touch on it, but obviously last week you lost a fellow tour pro through taking his own life, Grayson. I mean, I don't know if that was anything on social media with that, but obviously we're not used to so much criticism, and there's such mental health issues as well. You put enough pressure on yourself, never mind then another 1,000, 10,000 people putting pressure on you as well. What was that atmosphere like this week?
That's been definitely a shock to us to sort of see something play out so quickly, and so there's such a finality to it. Like, wow, you made a decision and that's it. Like, he's gone. And I didn't know Grayson well, but I played with him 4 times in the last month. Which is
really?
It's like a very weird amount of time that we spent together, having never played golf and never really spent any time together. So, my caddy almost was, making plans with him to go and see a hockey game down in Florida. And so, quite harrowing to sort of see how fragile someone is, and you not have any real concept. We've all known that maybe Grayson's sort of in the past had his issues, and obviously some addiction issues or alcoholism or whatever the other little things not little, huge things that he was battling in his life, and seemingly on the surface doing a great job,
and that's how
and moving on with his life, and and then also having success this year too, winning and his highest ever world ranking and all these things. So it just shows that
it can be masked so easily, can't it?
I think
success isn't always the answer to happiness, right? For sure, it's got to be rooted in something a bit deeper than that.
Well, that's the thing, and it's so sad, and it hit obviously everybody very hard. Obviously, friends and family, and you guys playing those events, but naively again, you can look as a golf fan, thinking everybody out there's living the perfect life. You've won an event recently, you're playing on tour, but it just shows that there's a lot going on that you don't see. But yeah, it was a massive shock.
You're as I would picture a almost a role model tour professional. I would put you in that category. You certainly work tremendously hard in your golf game. You always look like a tour pro, like as in there's no scruffiness at all to you. How much work do you actually put in? Like, what do you feel like you're working as hard now as you was doing 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Like, and how do you keep doing that?
Yeah, I am working harder than I've ever worked, which is kind of annoying because you sort of think you get to an age 43, you've got to think that you'd have things figured out in a way.
Should be able to crack this now.
Yeah, I'm like, why is this feeling more difficult than ever? I feel like I need more access to my body in order to play well. That doesn't get any easier. So the discipline around staying fit and sharp and recovered and healthy and moving well, those things are way more of a time drain than they maybe used to be. So that takes a lot of mental effort. And then my life's changed a lot. Living back in England, so a lot more travel on the back end.
Yeah,
kids are obviously at school here in the UK, which is great, and our life is great here in England. Like everyone's where they should be right now. And I think that for me it's about the next phase of life, which is putting some other people before my own needs, but I'm trying to still be as successful as I've ever been, so I'm having to find other ways of working, and there's more sacrifice to that, I feel.
As a tour pro, you got to be selfish, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I guess you do, but maybe at this stage of my life don't have that luxury.
Well, that's it.
And there have been times in my life when it has been all about, you have the freedom to practice late if you want, or being footloose and fancy free, meaning maybe you're just married, or if you don't have kids, or if the kids are young and can come with you on tour.
Of course,
you do have a lot of freedom at that point in your life. I don't think you really appreciate it at the time, as we never do.
Not at all.
But,
like pre-kids, and a guy had a little one recently. I said to him before, make sure you go to the cinema, make sure you have holidays, make sure you go out for meals.
Well, that's a question though on that, because my little girl's 1.5 now, and obviously Scottish Chef just had a baby. In a sense, does that help though in some regard, that actually you can see that there's life off the golf course, and if you do get off the golf course, whereas normally you might want to do a bit more practice, you might have to go home to a wife and a baby and be changing nappies or whatever. Does that help you in some regard to actually see what really does matter? Yeah,
there's a beautiful perspective to becoming a parent for sure, and I think it makes the bad days on the golf course kind of pale into insignificance, and good days are always good. So I think there's a perspective there for sure, and I think there's just that sweet spot where you can do both for a period of time. You can have your young family on the road, and so you're not really sacrificing too much. You're not away from them. But as soon as school kicks in, I feel like that's where life changes a little bit, because you've got to put your children first, and how that means in education and whatever that is. I mean, obviously you can create education in many different ways by traveling too, and a lot of people try that. But demands get more and more and more as the families get older and older. So. There's more people with more demands, right? Or more priorities.
There was talking about your family. There was a wonderful clip in the Full Swing series. Yeah. When you were waiting in your garden and you were playing football with your lad.
Yep.
And you were waiting for the call. And I thought it was just a great clip. Yeah. Like, it was a sunny day. You were there, kind of waiting for this all important call from Captain Luke Donald to say whether you've made it or not made it, and you could see through the. I'm sure you've watched all the Full Swing. I think it's fantastic. You could really sense that, like, this is it. As soon as my phone rings, that's the moment. What did that actually all feel like? And obviously, then describe the journey of last year's Ryder Cup, because it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you're right. Obviously, Netflix I guess they were featuring the picks a little bit in their narrative, right? They had the one on the US side, which was obviously quite a good story about
Keegan Bradley
and JT and things like that. And obviously, this was the first time I'd been picked for the Ryder Cup. So that was sort of some of the narrative. So they knew that the time roughly that Luke was calling, so the cameras were around, which is in some ways strange, but in some ways made it feel like, okay, you got to it was a good distraction as well. Like, okay, well, what are we going to do? Am I just going to sit there like chewing my fingernails, or am I going to get out with Leo, distract myself, kick the football about, have the family in the garden? Let's have some fun while we're waiting for the call. So it was a good distraction, but at the same time, you've got the Netflix cameras on you, you've got the world's eyes on you eventually as it's going to play out.
And you have no idea, literally, this was all shot like actually live.
Yeah, because it was live in the sense that Luke was going to call at a certain time. Yeah. So it was all then, you're waiting for the call at that time.
And when you said, just for our listeners, that's the first time you've had a captain's pick, right? Because all the time you've qualified automatically.
Yes. Yeah, and then the other times that I haven't played, so I guess 2010, Monty didn't pick me. There was some general chaos around that particular day as well. There were 4 of us in a Paul Casey, Luke Donald, Padraig Harrington, myself, and we were actually playing a tournament in New York at the time, and I was second last group. So the Golf Channel camera is like burning a hole in the back of my head, like while I'm warming up, because they're literally waiting for me to pick the phone up out of my bag and take the call from Monty. And literally I received the call like 2 minutes before teeing off, and
you joke.
The call doesn't go my way, and I'm it's sad. Okay, how do I pick myself up now and try and win this tournament? I'm in the second last group, so that wasn't ideal. But then Luke,
I'm going to go and win this tournament and prove you wrong.
That was the plan. But then Casey was playing with Harrington in the same group.
Oh God!
And Harrington's wife was like, she's giving him the thumbs up, like, yes, it's all good. And then Paul's kind of looking over, kind of like, well, what about me?
Yeah.
And he was like 9th in the world, didn't get picked.
Wow.
And he's in the same group as Harrington, so that was awkward.
Oh God!
And then Luke on that particular day got picked. He went out in 29. Got the word that he got picked and came back in like 43. So it caused chaos everywhere. So
not the best day to do the captain's picks.
No, it was terrible. So I think they've learned how to do it now a little bit as well. So, but I forget what the original question was.
Well, you get the call and you go into Rome.
Going to Rome. So
what a Ryder Cup it was.
Massive responsibility for me. So that's I felt like the Ryder Cup. That was about a month before the Ryder Cup, roughly, the call. So then it was like game on. Like literally every day, every meal, every drink, every workout, every practice for the next month was like Ryder Cup.
Wow.
I felt like the Ryder Cup became a month process for me. And it turned into an incredible Ryder Cup. I mean, I the one that I hadn't played in 2020, I guess, Whistling Straits, I felt like, maybe along with the rest of the world, Europe's in a bit of trouble here for the next foreseeable few Ryder Cups.
100%.
US looked strong, they had the bit between their teeth, a little bit cocky, they felt like they had the team connection going. So I thought, this doesn't look good. But then there was just this real last minute coming together of the European team that felt so natural, and suddenly a blend of players that felt really good as well. Some real young talent coming through, because we were starting to think, obviously, the Polts and Westies and all these guys had transitioned out the team, and where was the next young blood coming from? And then suddenly, obviously, the Højgaard boys started playing unbelievable. Ludwig Aberg kind of came from nowhere.
McIntyre.
Bobby Mack. I mean, it's suddenly okay, well, not just this Ryder Cup do we look good. We actually look good now.
Really good.
For some years to come.
It's totally changed the dynamic.
I'm really excited.
I suppose you, as the more experienced player in the locker room there, did Luke kind of lean on you with kind of helping guide a few of these rookies through the system?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, he definitely asked me to sort of sit in that role. But that role's not a role that you kind of can take too literally, and you don't want to start forcing your opinion and thoughts on these guys.
Because at the end of the day, you've got to go and play golf as well.
You've got to do that. But also, they're actually pretty capable themselves, and my way of thinking might not be their way of thinking, but my job was just to be open to if they had any questions or if there was any way. But I'll tell you what I did notice is that by trying to help Bob, basically the best way to help him was lead by example. So I was my best own coach. By trying to coach him through it, guess what? I was going through my Rolodex of okay, these are all the things I've learned. These are the things I know work.
Yeah, almost reminded
me of all the things I should be doing. So, I was grateful for the opportunity, but I think the person who benefited most was me.
Good.
So it was kind of a good learning lesson.
I suppose that's like with anything. If you teach someone else something you do automatically, you remind yourself of all those. Oh God, yeah, I forgot about those little things.
Right, you take it for granted. Yeah.
Do you get used to that kind of pressure? Because we played the golf course a few months beforehand, and obviously the grandstands were up, albeit nobody in them, and it's ridiculous.
Few workmen.
Yeah, few workmen. It's a ridiculous feeling. Obviously, you guys play week in, week out with huge crowds, but nothing can compare to those and that kind of noise.
Yeah.
Have you got kind of used to that feeling now, or is it still every time? Does it just feel crazy?
It feels crazy. I was a bit of a mess the morning of the Ryder Cup. Well, actually, it wasn't. I played in the afternoon, obviously. So, but I got to the course around 10, and I suddenly felt really shaky and super nervous. And I actually had to take myself inside and do what you're talking about there. Like, just go, okay, hold on. What works? We've been here before. What are the things that you can do to control it? And I had to give myself like a little bit of go through the checklist, because it wasn't routine. It didn't feel normal and natural. It was intense. And the Ryder Cup does throw that up. Just the scale of the crowds, but it's the total energy that they bring.
It's the best.
You go to a golf tournament and the crowds are there to watch golf, and they might have a favorite player, but they're there observing. Mm-hmm. Whereas at the Ryder Cup, they're there cheering and like rooting and desperate to win. And it creates a totally different environment.
Well, I was there. I was there every day, and I raced there on the Friday to get to the first tee grandstand, and I was lucky enough to be in the grandstand at Paris in 2018, and then again in Rome. The energy, it's the greatest. As a spectator, it's the greatest. And I look down at certainly at Rome, and you bloody gladiators there stood in like and you're like, I don't know how you hit a golf shot.
That's what I'm going to say. Like,
I don't get it. I wouldn't even be able to put my golf ball on the tee.
Do you have these though? I mean, surely
for sure. I've been lucky enough to lead the team out before, and hit the opening shot, and I've played the first session in my first 5 Ryder Cups, and there's nothing like that Friday morning. Like, you can cut the atmosphere with it's like palpable. It's unbelievable. And then by the time the afternoon comes, even though that was my first match and it was massively intense, it's a bit more jovial by that time.
Everyone's had a few more beers by that point.
Right. Yeah. But that first morning, there's nothing like it. It's cold. It's normally a bit like misty. It's very atmospheric. It's like, oh my word. It's like, can't prepare for that.
And at that point, it's like, because at some point after that, the matches might be swayed either way. That's the time where it's like, both matches are now, everything's tied right now.
Everyone's into it. And so to your point, you are literally doing things like, okay, let's just take this slowly, and hopefully that tee peg is in the ground nice and solid. And you for the first time, you're sort of thinking about your breath and taking a deep breath. Stuff that, because the first tee shot's pretty routine, even in major championships. It's like, week to week to week, we turn up at a tournament, we prepare, you tee off and you get going. And obviously pressure builds during the tournament, and there might be on Sunday you start to feel it or whatever it might be. But Ryder Cup, it's shot number 1, hole number 1, you feel it.
And then when you hit the ball, you make contact. What's that? And it's gone. Okay. What's that feeling like?
Relief. Yeah, 100%. That was my advice to Bob, was like, mate, listen, wherever this ball goes, it'll be over in 2 minutes. Yeah. Like, just don't make it bigger than it needs. Like, how intense it feels, like, you can't live like that, or you can't feel like that for the next 3 days. Like, you wouldn't survive. But knowing it, we just got to get through this, and that's it. So you try to get through it as best you can, obviously. But there's no doubt you wouldn't want to, like, a lot of players will hit driver off of the tee, even if it's not the right shot.
Yeah, I think I would.
Or the right club.
Just the biggest head.
Tee it up, give yourself some margin for error, and get it airborne and just start walking after.
Because I remember at Paris, it was like, it's quite a squeezy little like 3-wood and 3 irons, and I'm thinking, give me driver every day. And that's what I quite liked at Rome. It's like, driver, tee it up there and give it a rip. Are you pleased again, and do you think it's obviously the right fit for Luke Donald to be captain again in 2 years' time, or a year's time now?
I think so, for sure.
He seemed like a great captain.
100%, he was a great captain. I think that Luke's demeanour in New York will be important. He's not going to amp it. It's going to be so amped anyway that I don't think you need a necessary, like a character sort of like taking it to them. I think it's like the best way to win there, and the most effect you can have is by quietening it down.
Kill them with kindness.
Yeah, I think so. So I think Luke will be really well suited for that, and the players were all about it. 2 more years, right? We were chanting that straight away in Rome. So, and I think there was no other real natural, captain like waiting in the wings too. And I think also like the amount that you must learn as Ryder Cup captain to only do it once. It's like a lot of learning wasted.
Yeah.
So he'll probably have so many things under his belt now that will make the captaincy easier for him. And I think being a home captain is much more difficult because you're in charge of so much more from a hosting point of view, course setup and, lady captains dinners and all these things that you got to think about and go through menus and do all the stuff. Whereas I think when you're an away captain, a lot of that's done on the other side. So hopefully he's got a bit more time just to focus on the team.
I've got 2 questions for you. What do you think the future of the Ryder Cup team is going to look like? And do you think now there's going to be needing to be access to getting a John Rahm on the team and Tyrrell Hatton? Or are you kind of just neutral at that? Or have you got an opinion?
I think that, as far as I'm aware, John and Tyrrell can both play the Ryder Cup. They just got to pony up on the fines.
Yeah.
And they can play.
Right.
So I'm like, there's a pathway for them to play. No one's saying they can't play. The European Tour has their regulations in order to protect themselves from just being a free-for-all. So fine.
Yeah.
We need that. But there's still a way for these guys to do it. So if they want to do it, do it.
Think they will?
They should.
You want them to? You want John Rahm on your team, don't you?
You want just the best players at the end of the day.
From my point of view, like them crossing over to live doesn't sort of mean that there's a divide that's in the team and therefore we'll do it without them. No, you want to go to the Ryder Cup with your best team and have the best chance of representing Europe. Golf's definitely been turbulent in terms of where's where, and I know that hasn't been the case. And obviously there'll be players, like Henrik and like Poult and like Westy, who probably have missed out on the Ryder Cup because there has been a different viewpoint maybe a year or 2 ago, possibly. But I think that viewpoint's slowly changed, and I think that we've played enough majors now all together where I think that people enjoy seeing the best players in the world all come together and play in the biggest tournaments, and that includes a Ryder Cup.
You need it, and I've spoke to Rick, and we've done this on the podcast before about like the world ranking and obviously how it's not a true reflection now, we don't believe, because of live guys, etc. And I think if the Ryder Cup, God forbid, wouldn't have some of these guys in, it didn't have the best players, it would feel watered down. We need the best players from Europe and from the USA to make it the spectacle that it is. When does
Captain Rose get his opportunity? And is that going to be something you really need to consider? Because by the sound of things, you're very much geared around still winning multiple more majors, really becoming the best you can possibly be. I'm guessing being a captain is a distraction and can also really influence like your ability to play golf that year, surely.
For sure. I think it's to time the captain. Yes. Well, firstly, I'd love to have the opportunity to be a captain, no doubt. And, hopefully nudging in the realm of having done enough and got enough experience and been a part of enough of them where I could hopefully add some value. But timing the correct Ryder Cup for you, I think is I'm not sure it's possible necessarily. I think that the perfect time would be where you've been very competitive, you've been out on tour, all the players, you're just starting to come off of your belief that you can continue to win regularly, and then you're willing to spend a year on tour traveling without a lot of chance of winning in order to just stay in touch with the guys on tour. The last thing you want to do is feel like you're hanging around for 3 years playing tournaments, traveling a little bit, being part of the tour without any hope of winning yourself. Like that's a big sacrifice for being a captain. So to time it just right is, I think, and not to mention suddenly you think you're going to be captain and suddenly you hit a sweet spot in your career and you start playing great again. I mean, but maybe at that point you have an opportunity to be a playing captain, but that's a big call.
That's a big,
and that's like you got to have a lot of self-confidence to say.
Kind of think who was the last playing captain? I can't think. Certainly not that I've known of anyway.
Was Seve ever playing captain? I should know this.
Not sure.
Well, there you go. Someone will tell us.
But it's like I can imagine when the opportunity strikes, and I think you'll be a phenomenal captain. It's got to be the right time for you in your career, and by the sound of things right now, your game's unbelievably trending. I won't give away the result of today's game, but the score that you shot today is astronomical.
Yep. Well, the first trial of being a captain has to do, obviously, captain picks. It's very important. Your first trial, you didn't even know, Justin, if you're going to be a good captain, and that was your food order. So we're waiting on food. Is the food here, Paul? The food is here. We're going to be eating any minute now. And you ordered it, and you've gone, we'll have this, we'll have that, we'll have that, we'll have this. So we will judge you now. If this goes well, then I'm fully behind Justin Rose being a captain. If not, then might have to take money elsewhere.
Well, Justin, you've been a pleasure. Thank you for spending time with us today. Thank you for bringing us here to your home, your childhood home golf course.
Loved it.
The main video will be out soon. Be sure to follow Justin. He's got some incredibly exciting projects coming up in the near future as well. You should check out his social media to find out more about that. And you've been awesome today.
Thank you, guys. Really loved it. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's been too long, but yeah, appreciate it.
Good luck with the rest of 2024.
Thank you, boys.
Go and win another major, please.
Come on.